everyone. I'm Ashley, your host of Life After an Ego Death, and this is my co-host, Torin.
Welcome back, everybody.
And we have Christy Morano coming back for a second episode. So thank you for coming back.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here again.
Just for anyone that may not have seen the first episode, could you just give us a little background on yourself? What do you do? Who is Christy?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a nervous system reset coach. So I help people return, who are moving from survival and return to safety. I teach them methods how to regulate themselves and also how to rewire your brain in live time. So like neuroplasticity and how to break free from, the monkey mind and the loops that we get so stuck in everyday life.
So eloquent. Yeah. That was amazing.
Yeah. Well, leading with that, let's kind of remove the label of we're podcast hosts, you're a nervous system reset coach. How has what you studied about the human vessel, about the nervous system, about neuroplasticity, how has that impacted your life? What do you do on a daily basis? What's your story that led you to that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I was someone who I would say I used to use the term suffered with anxiety. I don't really like to say that anymore because I just say it's like an emotional activation. When we label it, it kind of keeps us stuck in that identity, right? But I used to get a lot of what we call and what we label anxiety, and it really just kept me stuck. And I tried all of the different modalities, journaling, affirmations, therapy, you name it, I did it, hypnotherapy. I did it all, and I couldn't quite figure out why I wasn't moving forward and why I would always, the patterns would repeat. I would be okay for a while, and then, something uncertain would come in and I would spiral again. And it would and inside, I was just dying. And on the outside, I looked fine, but I really wasn't fine. I really wasn't okay. So, and I knew how to regulate myself because that's really the first step. So then you're able to have awareness. So I was doing that through teaching yoga, meditation, different ways. But then I started to study a little bit deeper. I would study the greats, Tony Robbins, Joe Dispenza, and I basically took everything, all of my knowledge that I learned from other people, and I simplified it into a tangible method that every single person can do. And along my journey, I noticed that my gift was I'm very good at simplifying things. I'm very good at making things like people always be like, oh, Christy, that makes so much sense. And so I simplified it into a way that then I'm able to teach other people that this is what you do, because so many people are caught in the same, anxiety loops and, these just where anything can happen in your life. What people don't realize is problems come, all the time. You're never going to remove stress, but it's speeding up the process of how we handle it, how we react, what we do in those moments, so we don't keep feeding the same neural pathways and we don't stay stuck, because there will be another thing and another thing and another thing. And yeah, so along my journey of healing myself, I was like, wow, this really works, because I tried everything and I never thought I would ever feel any different. And the minute I started to, use my method and actually implement the things that I'd learned, that's when I was like, my life started changing. I was able to handle bigger problems. I was able to react differently. My conversations were different. My relationships were different. Even the amount of money I could handle coming in changed, because now, your capacity increases as to what you can deal with. And so now that's what I, am blessed to be able to teach other people and help guide other people so they can move through that, because it is something that you can change. And a lot of people don't understand why they're stuck. And most of the time it's because you're repeating the same pattern. So yeah, that would be the journey. And now, and it's a never ending journey. It's not something that you ever stop. Like people think, oh, I'm going to be healed and it's going to be sunshine and rainbows. And there's always another level. I say it's like, it's like playing a computer game. You defeat one boss and then another layer comes and it's like another level. So yeah, I've just been blessed to be able to really conquer that and, have the right tools to be able to work through it. But as far as like my routine and what I do every day, the most important times are the morning and the evening, what you do. And coming home to yourself, everything that we need is already within us and it's free and we don't utilize it. And most people don't, they try to heal through the mind and you have to shift your state first. And that's where the regulation comes into it. Yeah, so hopefully that answered your question.
Oh, absolutely. But now I have more questions.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
yoga, what limb of yoga do you practice and teach?
So what style of yoga do I teach? Do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I teach vinyasa.
Okay.
That's predominantly, I like to flow. Because I think as well being a female, very in touch with the feminine. So I'm very big on somatic movement and stuff like that. So obviously learning that more about myself is probably why I was drawn more to vinyasa, because it flows, one breath, one movement. Not that we always move one breath, one movement, but we hold poses as well. But yes, I like to flow. I'm not like big on like Ashtanga and stuff. I love it. I think they're great disciplines, but yeah, vinyasa is my style.
Gotcha. So through vinyasa, what are some of the parallels and like, same but different, if you will, through the line of work that you have found yourself in? Like, how could you teach someone through vinyasa what you do in a sense, right? Like, because what I've personally found for myself, because I'm also, I've been certified in vinyasa and I've studied stuff like Kundalini and a couple of the other limbs and whatnot. And I've found that a lot of the nervous system reset stuff is kind of like what all of this is about. Like one of the biggest pieces of the practice of whatever limb of yoga you choose to go with. Yeah. The nervous system regulation is something that is taught just in a number of different ways. So what are some of the parallels that you found in your experience?
Yeah. So obviously the biggest thing is people don't understand is, a lot of people practice yoga for the exercise. But the biggest difference is with yoga is, one limb of yoga is your pranayama, is your breath work. So in yoga, we breathe differently. So we take deep diaphragmatic breaths, and when you learn to breathe correctly and you take those deeper breaths, and that's what then shifts your state. So it brings you into the present moment, which is the only place where life truly exists. And that's the difference. When you do regular exercise or you don't breathe correctly while you're doing yoga, you're breathing to exert energy rather than to create it. Prana means energy, life force. So that is the biggest difference with yoga. So when you learn how to actually breathe correctly, which is the hardest part for most people, the poses come. And this is what I tell everybody. The asana, yes, it is a limb, but that comes with practice. None of that means anything if you cannot breathe correctly. And as human beings, we breathe so shallow. We do not breathe correctly. And when you learn to actually breathe correctly and take those deep diaphragmatic breaths, and I always cue it belly, ribs, chest, right? It's that deep breath, ballooning the diaphragm out and then, feeling it expand and contract. And when you learn to do that, when you're moving, when you're going through the movement or you're holding poses, like I said, it brings you into that present moment, which then you're in your body. You're not in your mind. You're feeling rather than thinking. And that is the biggest breakthrough you can have, because then that brings self-awareness. Because afterwards as well, people will always be like, oh, wow, I felt great, and that's because you're in your body, you're in your present moment. So that's the place we're supposed to be. As human beings, we spend our lives we either live in the past and all the memories of the past, or we live in the anticipation of the future. We are constantly trying to escape the present moment. So when you actually do the practice and you learn how the actual discipline works, it's magical, because you're like, wow, I was really, time just flies. An hour or 75-minute class just goes so quickly, because you're in that present moment, you're in your body. And then, like I said, that brings you the regulation, you're reaching homeostasis, you are then having that awareness of the self. It's the journey through to the self, through the self. So yeah, it's the most beautiful thing. And it's such a gift for anybody that can actually take the time to be able to practice.
I love that. And something that I've really loved about vinyasa, through like the sun salutation, Surya Namaskara A and B, and getting to Shavasana or corpse in the end, is it's such a good reflection when you start to go into asana or like shapes of what you're going through on like a daily basis, on like a daily routine, right? Like there are
Yeah,
certain asanas that you could think you should be able to hold for, like quite a long time, quite a number of breaths, but on certain days you just don't have it,
yeah,
right? You have to be able to regulate yourself and just be like, okay, like
yeah,
I need to take a break, like knowing when you've hit your limit and when you need to
yeah,
like pull back, right? And
yeah.
it's something I noticed in like the westernized yogic culture is everyone's always trying to like push themselves past that limit.
Mm.
And it's so
Mhm.
detrimental to like the vessel and the nervous system, because you're overstimulating yourself. Like you're not learning
Yeah,
how to regulate yourself through that flow, like knowing when you need to pull back, knowing when you can like ramp it back up. And it's really cool to think of like you can start your day by already like going through your day through your vinyasa practice if you so choose to do it like in the morning, right?
yes.
Of like, all right, like this is how my body is responding, this is how my nervous system feels, this is what's going on in me. And then you can
Mhm.
go and relax into that through shavasana at the end and really integrate and understand like the energetic capacity that you have for the day.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's such a beautiful practice. There's so many different things you learn every time you step on your mat. It's learning when you're holding a warrior three and you're balancing. And, I tell everyone, you're learning the instability, right? You're learning to breathe through the instability. Um, Maintaining the breath through when some days you're wobbling more than others. And, as Buddha says, it's weakness leaving the body. And it's just such a beautiful thing. And then, like you said, when you get to Shavasana, you're moving the physical body, you're opening up the physical body by using the breath to be able to release through the mind. And that's what it's about. And I tell everybody all the time, you're never trying to remove the thoughts, you're just redirecting where the attention goes. And because people are always like, oh, I'm in, you see people, they're in their mind, or they can't sit still, they have to move. And it's just a practice. It takes time. You have to keep redirecting the energy back into the physical body, back into, just noticing the tingling in your fingers or the tingling in your toes, the head resting on the back of the mat. Those are the things, like I said, redirecting the attention back into the present moment. That is the practice. And when you can learn to do that, and then you can apply it in your everyday life as you're going through life, throughout your day, how many times do you stop to think, let me relax my shoulders down, let me release my jaw, let me release the bracing from my belly, and where am I right now? Am I in my mind? Am I in the present moment? And the more you can keep practicing that throughout the day, you're constantly and continuously regulating yourself. And that's the beauty of what we can take off the mat into our everyday lives.
I love that. So you brought up Dr. Dispenza, and I
Yeah.
was a big fan of his work. I have a friend who used to work and study under him, and a lot of talk about like the subtle field, right? And like as you reset yourself, you start to become aware of like the subtle changes, like you were just saying, kind of like how the mat feels on your back, or like how the wind feels on your skin, things that you didn't notice before because your level of awareness of like the self has opened up. So in your experience, as you have continued these practices with like yoga and like the nervous system resetting and all the things that you do, what are some of the like subtle changes that you may have noticed that have kind of sprung up over time about how something like might affect you, like things that you notice that seem to be much different as time kind of continues to roll on for you?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing is having the self-awareness, because you've got to remember, when we're bringing ourselves into the present moment, you're becoming more conscious. When we wake up every day, most people just work, they move off of autopilot. You wake up, you check your phone, you check your emails, you check your text messages, you get up, you brush your teeth, you get in your car, you drive to work, everybody is just moving from that sympathetic overdrive. We just go, we just do. And when you can actually learn the difference to be and set your state before the world decides to set the state for you, it just gives you that more consciousness, more awareness of the self. So then you're able to be more aware of when you're being reactive. I would probably say that's the biggest thing. You can learn to pause and be like, oh no, having a little bit of an emotional, some emotional activation here. Let me sit with it. Let me not react. And taking that time just to create that pause and noticing, your own self. The loops and the patterns that we create ourselves. It takes awareness to stop and be like, hang on a minute. Am I sabotaging this? Is this really like, my intuition, or is this my, reacting from, a different state, should we say? And I think a lot of people don't have that consciousness to be able to do that. And then that's why, like I said, they stay stuck in life, or they repeat the same patterns or the same loops. And I see it a lot in relationships now. I feel like we're in a time where so many people are single. So many people are, not in relationships anymore. And they're so quick to be like, oh, this person I didn't like how he texts me, or he didn't do what I wanted him to do, or, vice versa, male and female. And again, I think a lot of that comes down to like, what filter are you deciding that through? Like, is it coming from a place of, reality, because no one's going to fulfill all your needs. So a lot of people, like I said, are reacting from that place of, past events, past emotions. And so many people get stuck in those past emotions, and then it becomes their identity. And therefore, nothing changes. And then they wonder, they spend their lives trying to change, but they're not realizing that they're actually the ones creating their suffering and keeping themselves stuck. So I would say definitely the consciousness is the biggest thing for me.
Nice. And as that's like opened up for you, as your consciousness has expanded, what gifts have you noticed about yourself that you were unaware of before?
I think that I've always been aware of my gifts. I've always been an empath. I've always been I'm very sensitive. My nervous system is very sensitive. And it's a blessing and a curse, right? It's always a double, you have duality in life. It's never, you have the dark and the light. That's just what comes with it. But the gift, I would say, is just, like I said, being able to break it down and simplify it for other people to be able to understand and go, wow, that really makes sense. Because a lot of people give a lot of information, but if you haven't truly embodied it, I believe that it doesn't translate the same way. When you've really lived it and you embody it, you can really help guide somebody else. And that, I would say, is, the more aware you become, the more you notice things, the more you can understand it. And then you're able to share that with others. And, I would say just the gift of I think we're all so gifted in so many different ways. And especially as, a female, our intuition is one of our biggest things. And a lot of times when you're not in a regulated state, we think it's intuition and it's not. So your intuition gets heightened. You're able to make clearer decisions. You're able to be more creative, be more focused. Because at one point I used to be like, man, I used to see all the creative people and I used to be like, I want to be creative. And, it was already within me. It just I wasn't living from that space. So, but yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest thing, is just being able to understand yourself and what it is that you truly desire, what it is that works for you, because we all have needs, right? We all have things that are our needs. And I think a lot of that gets confused with what we're told, what we're programmed and conditioned to believe, rather than what feels good for me. And I think the more conscious you become, the more you can understand what feels good for you and what works for you and what you enjoy as well,
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, I'm really happy that you brought up the term empath, right?
Yeah.
Could you just expand on that a little bit, just for anyone who may not be super familiar with what an empath is, like kind of how that works?
Yeah. It's definitely a terminology that a lot of people use like loosely. We feel deeper, we feel things more. So, obviously the woman's gift is to be able to feel. That's what we do. But it's just everybody is able to feel, obviously. But a lot of people, think there's differences. You're able to feel the energy of other people. Everything's energy, right? And when you're an empath, you can feel that emotion, the feelings in others. You can feel it when they walk in the room. You can feel the energy of the room. You can feel the energy of a home, a place that you're in, an environment. And you're just able to feel that energy on a deeper level. And sometimes it's unexplainable. Sometimes it's just a difference in what's going on in the collective consciousness, and you're like, man, why do I feel sad today? And you have absolutely no reason why you feel that way. And you can feel that, when you wake up, it's like, oh, today's going to be one of those days. Everybody's going to be a little bit grumpy today, or everybody's a little bit on edge, or everyone's super happy today. And you can really feel those things. It's just that deeper level of awareness to be able to feel. That's my perception and my experience of it.
I want to add something that I've collected from listening to you guys talk.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the vinyasa, the flow. I'm not a teacher, but I'm a student, and I've never really liked flow that much, or the 26 and 2, because it is so rigid. But the flow part, I've noticed more and more yoga teachers expressing themselves, their uniqueness in their flow of having a lot of playtime and being able to spend a lot of extra time getting into some different poses and just trying to go to the fullest expression. Even if you fall, that's okay. And this comes with like every type of art, like any type of play, like playing sports, drawing, coloring. Like people in
Mm-hmm.
their rituals of what they do every day, they can't be so rigid in their structure of how things need to be. It's just they just need to make it their own. They just have to do it anyway, whether it's not perfect of how it's supposed to be. It's just doing it for the sake of doing it. Because you were talking about how like you regulate yourself, and when you were talking about regulating yourself, all I could think about was play, and
Mm-hmm.
how much the child is constantly regulating themselves by touching and playing and doing things the way they want to do it, the way they want to
Correct.
eat, the way they want to drink. And we need to, I feel like people are just so set in a way of like very closed off and guarded of how they think it should be in their day-to-day life. But they need to
Mm.
break through that wall and be open. Like when were talking about relationships, of how people are filtering of how people should treat them in relationships and stuff. And they're just so closed off and not opening themselves up to even noticing of the wiggle room of how you can just behave and showing how different you really are. And anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about that before we ended, of just give yourself, for everyone, like give yourself a lot of grace. Like let everything just express yourself, and that's it. Like everyone is going to perceive you. Everyone is going to judge you. Everyone is going to have like their own story of what they think about you, but they don't know you. Like you know you. And so just, really like be you. I really love watching you two go back and forth, expressing yourselves and just sharing all the things that you've learned along the way. But I just want to give like a breather for all the people that are listening to you two. You guys know so much. and it's awesome. And it's so awesome.
Yes.
But I want to let people just like relax into not having it figured out, like not knowing what their gifts are, not knowing what they're good at, and just starting to like walk and find what they're good at.
And you just touched on the most important thing about the flow. Is, personally, like I used to be afraid to go upside down because like I've had wrist surgeries and like all that, and when I finally did it and like collapsed myself, like kicked a mirror and did all that, I was like, oh, like that was actually kind of fun. Like it's okay to be like messy and playful as long as I don't, kick the person next to me. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing. And that's what people don't realize. It's just about the journey. It's never about like a destination. It's just about who you become in the process. You don't have to have it all figured out. I don't have it all figured out. I'm still learning day by day. Like I said, there's always another level. There's always, there's always a next thing. There's always something more. There's always another problem that comes in, another uncertainty. You never, it's, it's like daily hygiene, right? You don't wake up and think, oh, I'm not going to wash today, or I'm not going to brush my teeth. You do it because it's just part of who you are and what you do. And that's how, people have to look at healing and, just you're on this journey. We never figure it out. Most of it, we don't even know why we're here, right? We only know what we're told. I believe we're here to help with the elevation of humanity, but we still never really know. And it's just about finding that joy every day. And a lot of people I see as well, we get so stuck, even myself, we get so stuck in, we need to heal. We like, rather than how about we just live and enjoy life and just find our joy and find what makes us happy, because tomorrow is really never promised. And like I said, all we have is the present moment. So, in whatever way, that is holding you back, the fear of whatever program it may be that holds you back from just expressing yourself or being, even if you don't know how to do it, try different things. Be open to explore yourself and explore, what makes you happy, because if you don't explore, you're never going to know. And it might take multiple different things that you try before you're like, okay, that's the thing that I love, or that brings me joy. And not just that, your seasons change too. Life is constantly changing. It's the only constant that exists in the world. So in the universe, it's like, so you have to evolve with that too. Sometimes I wake up, I've woken up before and I've been like, I don't know what brings me joy right now. I don't know. I can't tell you, like, and then I'll be like, okay, well, let me try this. Let me do this. What does Christy need today? And some days I don't know what I need. And some days I'm like, okay, I just need to go and walk in nature, or I need to practice yoga, and that's the beauty of it. It's this constant self-discovery, but without forgetting to just live and be happy and just find, like I said, just be in joy. Because like you said, going back to the kids, that's what they do, right? They see a puddle and it's the most joyful thing just to jump in a puddle.
You did that right before the episode. He jumped into a puddle because it was raining. And
See,
it's crazy.
I mean, I could have used it. I could have used
Yeah.
anything. I mean,
You just knew.
yeah,
And you have to be adventurous, right? Like so many people we see that they're like stuck in being comfortable, stuck in familiarity,
yeah,
like stuck in eating the same foods and don't even
correct.
want to like go and try like change their routine by going outside and like eating with the seasons. That helped me with the farmers markets. Like, okay, eating the certain foods that are in season, like that helped me be more adventurous, like in the kitchen, and be able to try new foods. And now, with the traveling and a lot of adventures that we have gone on, it's just, I don't want to be a regular anywhere I live or go. Like, I want everything to be new. I want everything to be fresh. I want so
Mm.
much different like variety in my life, because
Yeah,
that makes me feel alive. And I think
yeah.
that's very Gemini heavy, of always wanting something like fresh and new and keeping it spontaneous and keeping it really fun. But that's what makes me feel alive. So just like you said,
Yeah,
going out in nature, like being adventurous, trying something new, what makes you feel alive, follow that. And if you don't know what that
yeah,
is, like be with things that are alive, right? Like be with animals, you know, be with other life force energy, like
yeah,
the plants and
I want to touch on
yeah,
something that kind of just got brought up of like the knowing,
mm-hmm.
right? Like what just happened with the whole puddle reference. It's like you do know. We all already know. It's all stored like within our DNA, within our body, right? The conscious
yeah.
mind is kind of just like a particle decelerator, and it's used to process information. It's not, it's a, that's what it's there for, but it's not, is what is actually like guiding us, right?
Mm,
The what I've learned is the point of like learning to regulate yourself, like learning to express yourself. Like you have that, it's not like the goal, but getting to that level of like inner knowing and understanding that you are actually never making a mistake. You're never actually failing, right? Like it's all just steps with on the in the path as it continues to just like unfold as you walk forward, right? Once you can find that level of regulation, that what is a perceived failure or like a perceived threat, stress, whatever, is there to just teach you and show you something, and that you're never actually making a wrong turn. And like you already
mm,
know, like there's just this internal gnosis that we all have, that we've been guided away from, thinking that everything that's
mm.
up here is what we need to follow, when it's everything that's in here, right? It's like regulating your nervous system, but understanding that your nervous system's communicating with you, right? Like all the feelings and like the things that come to you through your body are signals that are
Mhm.
telling you, like, if you like look at like a coffee shop and like for whatever reason you don't even drink coffee, but you feel really excited, you should probably go in there. There's something for you
Yeah,
there, right? Like your
yeah,
body knows, but we are taught that all like the body's just, you know, a thing that
yeah,
carries you around, and it needs to be like controlled, and like the mind is the predominant, guiding force,
yeah,
when it's really your DNA and your heart that are carrying you everywhere.
yeah, and the
yeah,
children trust that. Before they're able to even speak, all they can do is feel their body's awareness and see who feels good. Like when I was babysitting a 2-year old, it didn't know how to talk, but it knew that it was safe to hug me and play with me and just like love on me, even though I was a stranger. But I felt good
right.
to the body, right?
Yeah,
And they just trust that, right? So it's
yeah,
just like us really trusting what our body feels. If someone doesn't feel good, they're not good for us, right?
yeah.
So it's
And
interesting.
sometimes, like I said, we get that confused because, you know, we are, I always look at it like, when we have these signals and stuff, so it's like an alarm system going off in a house. And unfortunately, when we've had certain things happen to us at an early age in our lives, those signals sometimes go off and detect a threat when there's not really even a threat there. So I would say that's probably the most challenging part of the journey, is understanding, is this signal really mean detecting threat or it's not? Because that's where the self-sabotage comes into things, because you let's say, for example, like I said, in relationships, people will be like, oh, well, they didn't text me back all day. And then the threat detection starts to go off, and they're like, oh, well, now I don't want to, I don't want to be, this person's up to no good, or this, that, I'm getting that anxious feeling. Well, that anxious feeling is not real. And what's real is the data and the information you get. And then before you know it, you've cut somebody off, and really they were just busy all day, and that's the, I would say, is sometimes where the past emotions, that's where the regulation is very, very important, to determine what is my standard versus what am I, too early preempting because of a past emotion that is triggering a activation within me that's not really a signal that's saying anything. That's where I generally help people in determining, like, let's just pause, let's just regulate, because once you get that activation, that emotional activation in the body, the amygdala fires. Once the amygdala fires, now you're creating stories. Now you're stuck in this loop of the stories. Well, what if this person's it, now I don't trust them, da, 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 and the mind starts looping. I call it the monkey mind. Whereas when we regulate, we move back to our prefrontal cortex, which is, now we're able to make better decisions. Now we're able to stay grounded. But most people don't know how to do that in the moment. And that, I would say, is probably one of the biggest skills that we all need to learn, because that's, when we do that, we miss, even in work, jobs. Oh, that's too good to be true. Well, is it? How do you know that? So you're not gonna take that avenue, that opportunity, because you feel like it's too good to be true, but you don't have any data on that. That's not the information you have. That's a past emotion that you're going off of. Now, could it not be something good for you? Absolutely. But I always tell everybody, go off of the data. Things take time. You go off of the pattern, the repetition, and that's where you collect data and information from. Versus constantly just going, well, how does this, I'm in this feeling of this person doesn't feel good. Well, is it the person, or is it something that is from a past emotion? That I would say is definitely a nuance there.
Oh, I agree and disagree to an extent with you.
Yeah, no, I
Because
love that.
when that memory gets pulled up, right, and your body starts communicating with you, that your body is
Yeah.
signaling that there's something within you that needs to be released, like you've held on to something that needs to
Oh, yeah,
get
absolutely.
out of you, right? So
Yes.
most people don't have the discernment to realize, like you were saying, that where that is actually coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, the
Correct.
regulation is important, but the core root of the issue is the past trauma, is the whatever is getting fired through that experience that's like bringing that back up. So
That
the body's
story.
screaming at you, hey, this is in
Yes.
me. You need to do something about this. Like you need to deal with this because you haven't dealt with this in a proper way.
Yeah.
And you can
Correct.
see how people have spiraled so far through things that they have never properly like dealt with, that have come from not just their own personal life but their ancestral lineage as well, right? So
Yes.
there's a lot of pieces that really get played into how
Yes.
we truly like regulate our nervous system. Like yes, we have to be able to come back to the present moment and like calm ourselves and discern, like, okay, like is this actual like intuition? And from my experience of dealing with like anxiety and stuff like that, when those emotions have come up, it feels like panic. Like it's like an
Oh,
intense like
yes.
thought spiral. Like it's very
Oh,
different than when it's like, no, like this isn't good for you. Like it feels so urgent. It's like your fight or flight response is cued in, right? And that to me is the big cue of when like it's something from the past that's like coming up, some emotion, some event, whatever it was, that's being brought up in my cellular memory, that I'm like, okay, like
right.
why am I full blown panic right now over somebody not texting me back?
Yeah. I mean, obviously that was, that's a very, loose, example, because sometimes the examples do get bigger, right? And that's when it does get a little bit harder. But, the point I'm trying to make is most people point the finger out, they blame. And, rather than why looking at yourself going, okay, this is something, like you said, that's coming up, because you have to feel it to heal it. And rather than what people do is they blame the other person. And sometimes, yes, it is the other person, but it's still repeating for a reason. It's still, nobody triggers you, you trigger you. They might activate that trigger, but the trigger comes from you, it's within you. And people don't understand that, so they constantly will blame the other person, and that's when the sabotage comes in. And rather than let me heal this within me and notice why this is going on with me, and then I can make a discernment. But most people are so quick to be reactive off that feeling because it doesn't feel good. It, like you said, it feels, you just want to solve the problem. I call it like the inner detective starts coming, because we want to solve that uncertainty. We want to get some kind of certainty. We want to problem solve. We want to externally regulate. We go and have conversations, we repeat the same thing over and over again, or trying to figure it out, when really let's just deal with and sit with what we're feeling. But because that feeling doesn't feel good, and people don't want to sit with it because it's not it's not comfortable. So yeah, it does, it feels, it's and this is the thing that I say all the time, because it's just like, obviously our bodies are built so magnificently, that we need that. If we're walking through the woods and a snake jumps out, it's that same panicky feeling, right? We need that detection within us, but it's been so skewed over the years that people can't discern, the difference between that, what is really going on, and what is a threat and what is not, should I say.
Mm-hmm. What I've learned
Yeah.
from my triggers and being able to, it's coming up to the surface because it's ready to be alchemized, right? It's ready to be transmuted.
Yes.
So, and it's ready to be released too. So the more that you lean into it, the more that you feel it and process it and release it and transmute it, the more that you practice that over and over again until you run out of triggers, right? It takes a while. And who knows, you might get a new one that pops up out of the blue.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you know how the process works for you, and you know how to
Yeah.
do it. And then once you get to a really like a threshold, once you get to a point, then you could finally trust your feeling. Then you can fully trust like the people around you and everything around you, and get back to what your true self is
Mm.
supposed to be. So you have to clear yourself, get rid of all that gunk, right? All that
Yeah.
story and programming, all those traumas and everything. Once you finally get through all that and you're clean and clear, then everything opens up. Everything is different. And so
Yeah.
that's the light at the end of the tunnel for people. Like, keep doing it, keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, it just, like you said, it's the thing is like I said, you're never going to not have some kind of emotional activation. We have emotions for a reason. You're never going to have somebody that doesn't make you, somebody's going to make you angry, somebody's going to make you sad, something in life's going to happen that's going to upset you, or you're going to deal with grief, or there's always going to, problems happen. The more money you make, the more, you have so many different issues that then occur. Like, there's always something, right? But the difference is when you understand that you are the one that is in control of how you feel, and you can do something in that moment. What it does is it speeds up the time, your recovery time. It's about returning, and it's about keep coming back. And the more you practice it, the more you're able to be like, rather than something affecting me for 2 or 3 days, or now I'm down to 20 minutes, I can return back. And that's the practice, that's the difference, because you're never going to not feel those emotions. That's the beautiful thing about being a human being. Otherwise we might as well be robots, right? That's our blessing, we to have all these different emotions. And but like you will you will return quicker and quicker. You won't let it have that yucky feeling for as long. It return, like Tony Robbins always says, he has a certain rule. I can't remember how long it is, but he only gives himself a certain window of time before he returns. I think it's 10 minutes or something, I'm not sure exactly. And that's because he's practiced it so much that he's able to return quicker and quicker. And that is the practice of what people don't realize. They're constantly looking for this. I never want to have this feeling. Well, it's not doesn't exist. You're allowed to be upset. You're allowed to have these emotions. It doesn't make you unhealed or wrong or broken or something needs to be fixed. It's part of life. We can't have the great feelings without the other feelings. You've got to have, you can't, one doesn't exist without the other. So that's what makes life beautiful.
I think that is the perfect place to end it. I think that was a beautiful nugget of wisdom that you ended with, returning back and how quick you can.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely.